But I don't believe there's,
Down 122.
so there's not already a connection to it, right?
No, there's not.
Well, was that,
But 122
It's close
is
enough.
close.
Yeah.
Very close.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
very close. And I think that the legislation authorizes and allows compensation to the community. They help you tie in. So that's why I know it's an imposition to sort of ask you to, I'll be here and all, but this is an opportunity for us, and you guys are the ones who,
That could be a game changer.
Yeah.
You know, my biggest problem here is I see source being a big problem. And one of the things that also, you know, we're trying to, you know, we have old infrastructure too, every New England town does. It's the way it is.
yeah,
We have a 1908 tank that,
yeah.
you know, caused us some grief, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So, you know, when you're trying to push 220 pounds up a hill all day long.
That's
on
Barre,
old-
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on old infrastructure, you're gonna have what we've been having. I can see why I feel bad. By the way, I love working with your staff, Tom and Scott, they've been great, and Tim, and really helpful. And, you know, I just feel bad for the last, you know, breaks that they've had.
Yeah,
And, you know, I hate to see that continuing on, even if we get wells fixed, because of the dynamics of the hydraulics of the high pressure zone and the low pressure zone. So, I had some different thoughts, but, you know, that's down the road, we can discuss it, but, I was concerned definitely for source right now. You know, because one is gone, and 2 and 3 are running quite a lot to keep up right now, and we're all fighting breaks too, just because of the weather. If something does happen, it's gonna be bad. And I'm trying to see that, you know, sooner than later here on some things. You know, opening up to the Quabbin as a source, I don't know. Look at what that would be to get a new well, or, you know what I'm saying, as part of the deal. We kind of rang the bell because we are going through this process right now in Bondsville, and we had a meeting on Tuesday
last week,
with Steve.
Steve Shabazz from USDA, he's the engineer for our area. He mentioned that he's lost 14 staff people already,
Yeah.
and yet they are
Yeah.
looking for places that need help. So the timing for us to try and put something together and get it to them so that they can know that we're on the list is very important. I think timing would be crucial right now in terms of long-term.
And that's what made me nervous about Barry, seeing that, you know, cutbacks could be happening, and if you're not, you know, everyone's gonna fight to the top, and how do we get there?
fast.
Fast. Because when we do need the money, you know, it's a process in itself also, as you know. So, go ahead,
Yeah,
Steve.
no, I just want to share what we've been going through, so nobody feels like you're not alone in this. Bondsville was under administrative consent order in 2021 to replace the tank. It should have been, it was, actually, the engineers decided it should have been replaced in about 2010. But it got pushed off. It cost a lot of money to replace the tank. In that report.
1908, by the way.
The report that the engineers did in 2012, they estimated the cost to be $800,000. That price is now $3.3 million to replace the tank. It just, because it changes over time. We began the funding research using a place, RCAP Solutions. They're funded by the state and federal government. They came and helped us with the process. We got the preliminary engineering report and ER reports done using funds from USDA. It's the basis of what this whole thing is about. Without that document, then you can't apply for the next round of funding. That was done in 2022. 2023, we thought we were gonna get some ARPA funding from the town. Didn't happen. Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, we got approved for 3.3 million. Well, then we realized the project was gonna be 6.6 million because we had to add a water main as well, which we thought was being funded by ARPA funds, but that never came through. So now we're saying, okay, a $3 million loan over 20 years would have cost almost twice, even though it was at 2% interest, than the USDA loan, which is over 40 years. So by stretching it out over the 40-year period, people are paying for it over a longer period of time. The interest rate is still very low, and it worked out to our advantage because that also added grant funding as well. So total package right now is 5.2 million of borrowing and 1.3 million of a grant.
And so you're replacing a tank.
This is to replace a tank and put in 1 mile water
So
main.
let me explain a few things here. So, you know, as an operator, and I've run many systems, any operator gets in the box too long. So I saw this tank, and I knew we were gonna have to do stuff to it. It had some leaping, but one of the first things we knew we had to do was interconnect with Three Rivers. So we spent $1.5 million to interconnect with Three Rivers, because we knew we had this ticking bomb we had to deal with. Thank God we did, because the next spring, we went up to the tank and it had a smile and water was coming right out of it. What I didn't really think about is the fact that this tank is in a residential area. It's up on a hill with 2 tiers. And when the state came in, they basically said, if this tank goes, it is gonna wipe out half of Bonneville.
Now, do we have a tank problem in there?
No, we
Oh,
don't.
okay.
But what I'm getting at is that we try to fix these things with what we got.
Yeah.
And that's just our way of doing things, I think, as Yankees. But we don't like to spend money and we like to do our best. But it got to the point it was overwhelming. And it could have been a catastrophe for us. We're able to shut the tank off. We're able to use Three Rivers if we need to. And we were actually forced to spend $150,000 putting a Band-Aid on it right now, the tank, so that we could do what we're doing. Now, we looked at the big picture going forward, because we also are in the district of Three Rivers and Thorndike. And Three Rivers is the other water provider, but their tank was always higher than ours, and we could never really help them out. So we're looking for the future of the districts. So we are going to spend a little extra money to get to the area where we need to put our tank at the elevation of Three Rivers, so that fire protection now can be shared throughout the 3 districts. And we're also going to put a tank in an area where fire protection never was. So there's a lot of win-wins here for us going forward for spending a little bit more money to get a lot more for it.
So how do you think that all ties into Barry's situation? I mean, we're working on some stuff to come into compliance.
You are, but what I'm, you know, I say this, you know, so when I ran Hazardville Water, which was 8,000 customers down in Connecticut, we had a lot of turbine wells like yours. Well 1 was an older well, and one day it locked up, and basically the screen blew, and that was the end of that well. Done. Okay? We had plenty of redundancy in Hazardville, so what I'm getting at is we're running these wells
In Barry,
in Barre a lot.
yeah.
You know, even to look at the drawdown, I'm afraid to look at it. And the fact that if we cavitate or we do something to cause a major problem, and the engineers here, we could lose the well, because we don't have anything else but these 2 wells that run these 2 high systems. And your tank storage, and every time we have a break, we're, you know,
You have to refill the tank.
it takes days and weeks to do so. And it's putting us under a lot of stress, and putting those wells under a lot of stress. And when a break happens, especially in well 2, it ramps up. It just automatically does, because it can freewheel then and put out a lot more gallons, and, you know, it's a scary process. From an operator's point of view,
Okay.
that is, you know, concerning to me.
No, we certainly know that we have some needs in our, you know, in our water infrastructure. That's not a shock to us all, but my concern just is, what is the availability of the USDA monies these days? Have they already been half laid off?
Yeah, so one of the things that, you know, and I know we're here and you're going through this, one of the things that shot us right to the top is we got an emergency.
Well, the administrative consent order, and then a declaration of a state of emergency. Because in September of 2023, when we had that leaking tank, they declared a state of emergency, which we're still under. And we have to
So you're
report
saying
them.
that we should maybe look at trying to be a state of emergency?
Well, I don't know that, I don't know that they'd say that.
Well, no, I'm just saying from a grants perspective.
From a grants perspective, I would have the state to really evaluate where you're at, if you're willing to do that. I mean, I don't know where I don't know where you're gonna go if something happens. I don't know how many tankers you're gonna, how can you afford that, my friend? Okay, I don't know. It's just something that I'm looking at. And I just saw, yeah, it was a black eye for us too, but you know what? So what? It's New England, it got us, if that's what it takes to get the money, do it, get the money. That's how I look at it. And we did, we got it, and Steve did a great job in a very short time.
Well, because we also included our state representatives, our federal representatives, our senators, our congressmen, everybody that we could possibly tell the story to. We told them the story. And said, look, this is a danger. You keep saying that clean water is something that everybody's entitled to and should have in this state. Well, put your money where your mouth is.
Well, I would suspect, obviously, that we should utilize that information that you're sharing with us with legislators regarding the water bill. Because if we're the kind of town who has an infrastructure already, and we have an access point to tie in,
Yeah.
I mean, that's cheaper than probably other things, if that legislation were to be something that's fondly, addressed at the legislative level. They're basically, the last probably 2 or 3 years, there's been an awful lot of pressure on the legislature, the state legislature, about rural communities, and the fact that no one is doing anything for rural communities. They take your land, and they pay you a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, that's this big. For the same acre, if it's located in Wellesley, it's 5 times the amount per acre. And so we're always screaming about that. We're always screaming about that. I'm particularly interested in all that stuff because we worry about school funding in rural communities because it's woefully inadequate. And so we're always whining about that. So I know that it makes a difference. Rural communities now in the school area are getting rural aid. Quabbin got over $1 million last year in rural aid. And the legislation now is to push the amount of rural aid to schools in the rural communities to $60 million. That would mean more money for Quabbin. More money for Quabbin means less money from the local till to support Quabbin, which is a good thing. We also know about our water system, and I've learned a whole lot just hanging around with Jay and these guys, because when Senator Comerford, who is pretty important in the whole fight about rural stuff, she's pushing this big time. She and others in the area. She now is one of the players, with Spilka. Spilka, if you know her name, it's important. It's somebody who's in Senate Ways and Means, and so I wanted to make sure when I show up at that meeting tomorrow with the senator and others that I can sound like this is the problem we have in the Barre community. We are very close to a place where we could tie in. What money is available to us to tie in? And know, if we need to be called, I don't know, what did you call us? To need corrective action plan or whatever, I don't care what you call us, that's the way we built new schools, quite frankly.
And Maureen, if you tie to the Quabbin, it's endless water.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you can still, we were told, once again, we went down that avenue, because if we got the casino in Palmer,
Yeah.
actually, we would have tied into the Quabbin.
Right.
Okay, then we would have made them do that. So that was just, what it was. But that being said, we could have our wells too, so we could still produce.
Yeah, right.
But it was there, you had to use so much water a year, in average. But, so what? You still can use your own infrastructure, but that's there. So it's another way out.
See, because of course, tomorrow I'm going to say, we have met with our engineers and our water department, and we are all for this or not? Are we saying we should have access?
We should look at it.
We want access.
Maureen, I got some questions.
Okay, sure.
This Quabbin source, when did this become known? Because the water department has
Well,
had
this is-
no
this is-
correspondence.
this is-
Where is this
brand-
new,
this is-
brand new?
Brand new legislation that is going to be heading into this budget season for FY '26.
Okay,
And,
so that certainly gives us a good alternative to the issue of what our supply is like.
Exactly.
So absolutely, we would be interested in seeing what the parameters and what the availability for us to tie in would be pretty likely. What seems to be a pretty high choice at this point if it matures into something that's real. You know, secondly, the aspect of shooting for where the meeting I thought is about USDA loan and vote on whether we want to pursue and go after that. Well, most definitely we need that in our maybe our front pocket or our back pocket,
Right.
because it is always the way we've gotten the money. We've done it before,
Right.
because the town doesn't have the money, and it's the terms are right, and that's what USDA is for. So I guess your meeting tomorrow is going to bring us to a better place to know what our source is going to be. I think back to moving back a little bit here to the other end. You know, I think Jack has been and Bob has been doing a great job, and Jack has certainly kept us up to date with what we need and required to do under the DEP document that's required, and the the framework was laid out pretty well. We haven't had a chance to have a water meeting discussion till tonight with them, but the parameters have been put forth and the dates, and it's a working document
Right.
that can certainly work. And you know, we put the monies into that when the water department voted and said, get on with it. You know, let's hire Bob, let's do something. We have nobody. You know, we were in a state of emergency, do it. And, you know, there is $500,000 in the pool, in the water upgrade that the water department has been putting away diligently for upgrades that need to happen, and that can be spent by, I can't write the check, obviously, but the town accountant can, and
Right.
we can put that money, you know, forth to complete and finish our leak detection that Tom has been, we've started it, we've done some of it, and the water department asked and I think made vote, or obviously made known that we need to complete the entire town so we can get a handle on the leak detection. Is it leaking, or is it being used because of new users? I don't know. We don't know that yet, but when we do, we'll have a handle on what the state, which isn't a state of emergency, but the state of the supply that we truly have that we can pump. Are we pumping it into the ground, or are we pumping it to new customers? And when we have that in line, the issue of, as we've talked over the years, of a third source or dealing with a supply that we are going to need because of growth, then that I see is more of a USDA probable loan to make happen. And there's some time for that. So I think we're making right steps and moving forward, but there just needs to be more interaction with the fine line of dealing with the DEP, getting that taken care of, keeping them happy with the dates that we can accomplish. And we did just hire an extended contract with Jack with his estimate that he gave us to spend the money to do what needs to be done, the due diligence of engineering. And once we have that, you know, all the T's start getting crossed and the I's get it dotted, and we'll get there. So
I think that the most important thing from my perspective is the town has to present to the legislature as part of this bill. Are we interested? And if we are interested, why are we interested? We're interested because we need, we need to have access.
we need it.
Yeah,
Sure,
we need
interested.
it. And so
Yeah, you
what
bet.
I really would hope that you would arm the select board and the water commission to work with our engineering groups so that we can put together that response that we need by March. And it's really, you know, maybe a page and a half of what you know and I don't know. Because obviously I will do whining and complaining tomorrow in good form, you can count on it, with the senator and so forth. I know her very well, work with her on a lot of other school issues, and there will be other legislators there as well. So this is the very first time that there's been an outreach through the rural schools community, or the rural schools, you know, through rural schools, and they're looking now at our infrastructure. And that's all these good news for us, so.
Yep, I agree.
And so, March 13th, I have to have the document. I'm going to need to talk to Bob, I'm going to need to talk to Jack, I'm going to need to talk with the Water Commission, so we all know what I'm putting down. that these are our needs, this is, yes, we would be, we have access to an infrastructure that could deliver the water, we are this close to, and I know some of you guys know this already, I don't know where things are located, but if you can give me some guesstimates about how far away it is for us to get access to the source that comes through town, because like you say, you think it comes up 122.
You would have to find out where they want to tie in.
Okay,
I mean,
Yeah, they'd be there.
we got a water line pretty close to the pump station down there on Worcester Road.
right,
The underground tunnel goes through this, right through Barre, right behind my
right,
daughter's
right,
house.
I know it, right,
Down Worcester Road, another place. So you'd have to find out where they would want to tie in, see how
Okay.
close we are.
yeah. I don't know who they will have present, they're gonna have some people from the WMRR who will be there tomorrow as well. So I will make certain, and I know there's a couple other people from Barre coming as well, I will make certain we get somebody's attention and,
Great.
and find.
I'm sure you will. Good job.
Oh, the most important thing is, I didn't want to go ahead and kind of skate down the road without really having
Yeah.
conversations with the commission as well as the engineering people who are working on the ground. Because
Sure.
I'm gonna say this, is that okay? And you guys will say, no, Maureen, say it this way, because you know what I don't know. I know how to nag and complain. I'm your girl for that. But when it comes to really being able to give you just the specific information that they need, and if it would help us to do corrective action planning or something, you guys can all sit down and say, this is how we could do it, because it does make a difference. If you can write what they call an SOI, which is, a thing to fix a roof on a school, trust me, you gotta write it so that people know that it's leaking and it's this and it's that. You just can't say, we'd like to get a new roof. You have to say, we're under, the building inspector said, we can't have kids in these 2 rooms. That'll do it.
All right. Hey, Jack. So, Jack, you on board with this? You got a good little page to write up?
Yeah.
With a little bit of time? Yeah?
Well,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
have.
we can do that,
Yeah.
and I
Good.
agree, I think it's the way you say it, right?
Yeah.
But you are in a
Yeah.
predicament, you have 2 wells supplying the town, if you lose a well, that's a
Yeah.
major problem, so I think
Yeah.
that's an easy sell. If you had, the order from DEP, like you said, that helps with your funding side, that would help with all of this. And then, and that would help with both USDA or SRF, you
Yep.
can use either. I know this year, very limited funding on the SRF side.
Mhm.
But I know they're allocating something like 15% for rural communities.
Yes,
So you have a chance of getting that. And then with the order, you get a much better chance of being eligible for it. But yeah, no, I think this all makes sense. I wanted to throw out another thing that federal earmarks come out around this time. A lot of requests go in. It's often a last minute request and, we often are
Is
asked.
that McGovern where we would begin to whine and complain?
Yeah, and it's House
Congressionally
and
directed
Senate.
spending, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congressional directed spending, you have till a certain date to get it into.
What's it
that.
called again, congressionally?
Congressionally directed spending.
And there's literally like 5 names for them, so when they send out the request, it's that. But it's also community grants, federal earmarks.
And where would they come? Would they come to the select board?
No,
I've
well,
never
no,
seen 'em.
the House and the Senate each will just reach out to various people, so sometimes
So
you
we
get
have to whine
communications, sometimes-
first and, okay, got it,
But they open up in March or April,
okay.
and various legislators across the state, the reps, it comes out at different times, so you kind of have to be
Okay.
aware of it.
Right,
You
what
might
do-
even have to ask.
So-
Yeah, what
so
do we
you're
what do we
saying-
ask for? Because I do know what you're talking about the earmarks.
Yeah.
What exactly do we ask for? Like, how do I?
Well, you need to find out when it comes out,
Yep.
and they all have their own little application process.
And-
Some people
Mhm.
post it on their websites, many don't.
And
So you actually have
it
to
would be
ask
great
them,
if we
they'll
had
email
like
to
a
you.
corrective
But-
action plan order, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I do think
We're in
that
trouble.
everything we're talking about, you could submit for an
Okay.
earmark,
Okay.
and you do it generically enough so it would cover the connection to the Quabbin or just well redundancy, like you could frame it
Yeah,
such that it would covers either of that.
okay.
But our understanding is both like USDA, the money is still there, it's still rolling. The earmarks, I know the last cycle of earmarks, those bills are still waiting from the last fiscal year to get approved. The one problem with the earmark, by the time it gets approved, it's supposed to get approved by October, if it is on the the bill, but then they extend it, and then the money takes another 6 to 12 months to roll out. So you are talking probably 18 months-ish
Okay.
for that money.
But still, it's not
But
bad.
you could, get doing other things and use that for like the next step, so.
And Jack, one of the little things that slipped out from Steve was the fact that all the solar panel projects are all kiboshed. And they're looking for a big project right now. So me and Steve looked at each other and said, we got one for you. So, so they want to get something, because also they're getting hammered and losing people, so they want to find something that save themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, and just from a schedule perspective, like I'm saying, the earmarks are they're far out, but so are USDA and SRF.
Mhm.
But to your point, like getting going on some of the engineering behind that, we've been focused on the compliance side, but doing the
Right.
preliminary engineering report is one of the first steps there, but applying and talking to them.
Mhm.
So I do think that has moved up to the priority list of what needs to be done right away.
Because I think some of the other towns that don't have an infrastructure are feeling, well, we're not gonna bother with it, we've never used water, so we're not gonna worry about it. And Peter Sam was just saying, probably not us. Hardwick, like you say, it's a teeny tiny system. But, we're sort of, as far as I can see, we're one of the ones who absolutely should be looking at it, because
Yeah, we're the perfect candidate for
we
sure.
are, we really are. We have,
Infrastructure.
yep,
And I'm more east, but my town did an emergency connection, for emergency purposes initially, and then they're kind of figuring it out from there. But certainly that would be good. And although I think it's critical, having this shaft, having some kind of access is going to make it more affordable.
Yeah.
Having to do a whole new connection is a big cost, but maybe it makes sense, or maybe it's coupled with another
Well,
community.
and if they're gonna help supposedly with some cost,
Yeah.
Jack, who knows what the price will be, what they'll throw out there,
Yeah.
because they want customers in.
well, it's not only the one customers, they really want this to be, they're looking for some guinea pigs to get involved in this.
Mhm.
And they've made it pretty clear, come and we shall help. So I think if we can use your expertise and we can legislatively make some connections, so we probably have a good shot at maybe at least getting some attention. Because we've protected their land for a lot of years.
Yeah.
We've lost one whole part of our community, right? That whole White Valley stuff that's just gone. We've driven further than anybody should have to drive to get to a doctor's office, because it's all protected land all the way down Route 122. And,
And the other positive things with the Quabbin, but you pay up front, I got all that, all right, but it's, the water quality is all there.
yeah,
You're not having to do chemicals.
right,
You might have to have chlorine emergency,
yeah.
but for the most part, it's pretty monitored water that you're getting.
Now,
Wilbraham's
do
been on
they
for years.
treat it in the reservoir?
Yeah, they treat it
Okay,
coming to
somebody
you.
asked me that question,
Yeah.
and I didn't know the answer to
You
it.
might have to buff it up a little bit here and there, but nothing like you're doing now.
Yeah,
Wilbraham's been on it for years, and I work with Wilbraham, and, they get a little upset when they raise the rate, of course,
Well,
because you gotta raise rates too, but, Wilbraham's never said, no, we're not gonna do it.
yeah.
And they continue on all these years.
Well, you don't really have a choice. If you have
No.
a water system for the public, you have to maintain it and make sure that it's available.
Right, correct.
At least I think you do.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be Flint, Michigan, so
No,
I
no,
think
we
we
don't
should
want
work
that.
really hard
No.
at that. Okay. So we will be calling upon you, probably all, in the course of our, next several weeks and months. As I said, by March 13th, we need, and I'll know more about what exactly has to be included in that letter tomorrow. I will ask as many questions as I can, get as much information, and if they have handouts, I will make sure I get enough for all of you, so we can put together saying, yeah, we're in, and this is why we're in for Barre, and we're in 100%, and this is why.
Great.
Would you say this was in Hardwick?
It's in Hardwick at Eagle Hill School
Oh, really?
at 2:30, if you want to come.
So-
I don't know if I'm the only, I think, select board member going, so we don't have to post the meeting, correct?
It already is posted.
Oh, okay, I
It
already
is posted just in case.
Okay. Yeah, but it's at 2:50, and light refreshments will be, served, so I thought I'd really go now.
So I do want to just jump back to the USDA federal grant portion of it, are there any next steps that we need to really be focused on if deadlines for that are coming up quickly? Is there something on our end, something that we need to, or on the water? I just want to make sure we know what any next steps would be if there's anything specific we're going after with that.
Do they wanna know what we're going after? That's probably what they wanna know ahead of time, right? When they rent.
Yeah, we have to
I
have
don't know.
insurance.
But yeah, I think it's rolling, so I don't think there's a specific deadline.
Okay.
But it's kind of a long process, so the sooner you get started, the sooner you get
And-
finished. So
and-
getting that PER
Yeah.
report
And
done.
especially if
and
we
then-
need a corrective action plan, we're undergoing that with DEP, so that's a good thing. And then if we can do something else wrong,
Probably.
just saying, if we could.
Yeah, getting the administrative consent order,
Yeah.
yeah, or an emergency declaration from them would, and I've had some clients get that
Yeah.
and get $1 million of
Yeah.
grant money that they wouldn't have gotten, so it's
Yeah.
like, that was
Yeah.
worth it.
So if you guys have the opportunity to attend at 250 tomorrow at Eagle Hill School, I can't remember which building it's in, but it'll be obvious, I'm sure there'll be signage and stuff around. Trustee House.
I also mentioned too, for anyone else here, probably, maybe not specifically water, but on Wednesday, we're gonna have a discussion at the senior center about our CBDG opportunities, our community block development grant opportunities for South Barre, and part of that could be water infrastructure too, where there was the planning study that was done with the last grant, and so now we're gonna look at what we can actually get, projects in the ground ideally. So there will be a meeting at 6 o'clock at the senior center on Wednesday to try and find more funds. And that is specifically for South Barre based on, the census information, but,
Good spot.
yeah.
So, anyone else have any other specific question?
I can just leave you with this, you can check this out. It's the Water and Waste Disposal Pre-Development Planning Grants in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. That gives you the access to how to apply for that.
John does a lot of our
Engineering
grant stuff.
report and environmental review. That's really what you have to have in order to move forward with the USDA.
And
Okay.
It's just like proving that we've got an engineer
Yeah.
that says this is what we've got to do and that this is what they estimate it's going to cost.
And what we can do is make sure that everybody in the Water Commission and so forth, and you guys all have, you
Okay,
have
I'll do
that
that.
already.
Okay.
And we'll share whatever information we have. It's such an exciting opportunity that we have. So I thank all of you for taking the time to participate tonight.
There was
And
another comment.
there'll be more information for us. Corey, did you have a question?
So, I looked up the bills, they've already died on the vine once, they went to committee last session, so they've been reintroduced.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing from, and I apologize, I forget his name, the engineering firm, the operator, I think we need a plan in place to get another well up and running, or at least the engineering behind it,
Well,
because you're
well-
probably 3 or 4 years
Yeah,
away from
well-
getting water from Quabbin.
Well, you and I both know that they, under an emergency order, got water from Quabbin, whatever your town is. What's your town?
Yeah, they did a connection.
Yeah, well, you know what?
But-
Guess
But they
what?
only have a connection.
No,
they
but
have
I-
access.
No, no,
It was an
The
emergency
emergency-
connection, so it was a connection for use during an emergency. not-
Yeah, it
It's a
took
little
some
different.
time to do that, but I agree, that was my one
Yeah.
comment I wanted to make,
Okay.
yeah, that it is gonna take some time to connect.
Mhm,
But, yeah, I guess my point is, I think everything needs to move forward now, and then you can make some decisions as it happens.
And the concern that, certainly I know some of the small rural towns are just saying we're not interested. And if there's not a lot of people interested, there won't be a lot of legislators interested. So we need to make the case that we're not only very interested, but very needy.
Yes.
Yes, right.
And, once again, getting back to that consent order, we did a lot of arm twisting after we had that with the senator. Steve really said, fine. Basically said, well, if you have the catastrophe, we'll be there. Great. So we're gonna wipe out people's homes
Yeah.
first, and then
Well,
you're
that's
gonna
what the
show
water
up with
tank
your own
taken out,
22. And we're trying to get the money now. How stupid is that? So, but, that they have their ways, but we kept pushing and we found a way to get the money. Steve did a great job. So,
I will share that. There was $1 million in funding supposedly through the USDA if you have an emergency. And I'm like, okay, we have an emergency. It's a declared state of emergency, the tank is leaking. It's gonna cost us $175,000 to fix it, and we don't have the funds. Oh, let me find out what I can find out. We can only use that $1 million if there's already been a disaster. We can't prevent a disaster with that money.
Crazy.
That's always helpful.
Yeah, isn't that helpful?
Well, I do think there's some opportunity out there for us. We know we have issues of concern, and I thank all of you for taking the time to at least walk us through. And I hope, Jay, maybe I'll see you there tomorrow, if you got time. And, you know, definitely I'll be seeking help from the Water Commission to say, this is what they say we have to include in the letter, and handing it to you engineer types so you can, you know, say what we need. And I think that having the water from Quabbin available to us would be a wonderful opportunity for us as a community. I mean, we couldn't ask for a better pilot. Okay, that's payment in lieu of
It's
taxes.
good path to jump on.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, again, thanks so much for your time and attention. I appreciate all your help. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Ronnie, for
We need a
calling.
motion to adjourn?
Yes,
Make a
motion,
motion to adjourn?
we have a motion made.
Yeah,
We have a motion-
second.
We have a motion made and seconded to adjourn for the Water Commission. Those in favor?
Aye.
A motion to,
I'd move to adjourn.
we may have adjourned for the Select Board, and those in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye.